Yes.
All right, Judy Carter, welcome to MOTV. I'm so excited you're here. You and we've known each other for, I think about 15 years through the National Speakers Association at first. And we kind of do similar things, except you do it all so much better than I do. You're a comedian. You're hilarious. You teach comedy. I teach comedy. In fact, I got a workshop coming up. You've got a workshop coming up. You teach storytelling. You've written a book called The Message of You. And that is where I think our paths cross perhaps the closest. So welcome to MOTV. I know it's early in the morning for you.
Yeah, we should tell your watchers that the technical difficulties was Judy messed up on time and had to put on lipstick. That's it.
Right. Well, you did a good job. I want you to know you did a good job. What was the first book you ever wrote? Because I know you've written 7. You're on to your 8th. Am I right with the numbers there?
I think I've lost track, but that sounds about right. The first book I ever wrote was at a time in my life where I didn't know what to do with my life, and my mom had died, and I had been doing stand-up comedy. Stand-up comedy got to be really hard to do because, people became aggressively heckling. They would be like, "You suck! Oh. You think you're funny? You're not funny!" And that's while I was walking up to the stage. And I just went, you know what? I want to do something. I've been 17 years a headlining comic. I want to do something different. And I wrote a book, and about the only thing I knew how to do, which was to make people laugh, to turn problems into punchlines, to find things in yourself that were miserable and transform them. So rather than making people cry, you can make people laugh. And I submitted this book called Stand-Up Comedy, the book. I submitted it to 59 agents. At that time, there was no self-publishing. So unless you got an agent, your book couldn't get published. And 59 agents, right? I mean, and I kept going, and I was lucky number 60.
Oh,
who
man.
Gave it to
that itself is a story.
House.
Yeah.
Random House published it. They sent an advance copy to a woman. I don't know, maybe you heard of her. Her name is Oprah.
Oh, I think I know her.
Oprah Winfrey?
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah. Okay, that Oprah. Oprah. And she had me on her show and interviewed me, and wow, that's when that made me. You know, I think I'd be a depressed person eating bonbons on a couch right now if that didn't really happen. And that's why I say to people, if you have something you want to do and people reject you, that's just the universe's way of testing how much you really want to do this.
Yeah.
So.
There's so many stories. The ones that come to mind immediately is Thomas Edison with the light bulb, and how many filaments did he try? And he said, well, I just know there's one more that doesn't work. There's so many stories about perseverance, and your story is a good one. Although I thought you were going to say that when I went on Oprah's show, that's when her ratings all of a sudden exploded.
Oh my God. I was trying to be a little modest.
Yeah.
But I made her show.
There are some people who are watching MOTV, some people in the Mo Mondays community, or people who might not know Mo Mondays yet. But there's some people who are watching and they say, oh, I'm interested in Judy Carter. I read the bio and I'm interested in comedy. So I'm going to watch it for that. There are other people perhaps who are here watching the replay. They say, I'm interested in storytelling. And I know that Judy Carter is a master of that. So I'm going to watch it for that. And there are other people who are saying, I'm interested in learning more about myself and, my own, what do I have for the universe? And I'm going to watch this show for that. And there are some people who want all of it. And I think at Mo Mondays, we want all of it because that's what we care about. We want to make an impact on the world, in the world. We understand that our own story is perhaps one of the biggest opportunities that we have to do that. And we know that it has to be done with sensitivity and with humor, because without humor, the most impactful story could just fall flat. I mean, are you with me on this?
Yes, I am. I know at like National Speakers Association, there's a joke going around with a newbie speaker going, do I really have to be funny? And the answer is no, you don't have to be funny. Only if you want to get paid. Right. I feel that a story can be narcissistic, right? A story, I find that, like, first of all, let me get some distinctions here going. What is the difference between stand-up comedy, storytelling, speaking, and a TED Talk? Okay, I really want to clarify that to help people to figure out, because everybody has a story. When I say, I've written a book, I want to write my memoir. And then they start telling me their story and they go, yeah. So when I was 5 and I look at them, they're 62 and I'm going to be, oh my God, I'm going to be here for such a long time. It's like, and then this happened and then this happened, then that. And that's such bad storytelling. It's like you're holding someone hostage and captive. And I wasn't heard when I was a child, so you're going to listen to me now. And it's coming from this place of neediness. And I would say 95% of people who tell stories are energy sucks. I'm going to be frank with you.
I would agree with you. And I've seen a lot of them.
Mommy and daddy didn't pay me enough attention, and now everybody's going to suffer because of that. Right. So, I know some of your watchers, listeners might go, oh, well, not my story. So let me give you some distinctions. First of all, stand-up comedy is not storytelling. People go like, oh, but that's not true. This person, look at their material. It's premise-based. It's topic-based. It's not like, and then this happened to me, and then this happened to me, and then this happened to me. There I was. First of all, stand-up comedy is all present tense. You can tell a slight story, like you can go, I have this Jewish grandmother, but then you have to hit a premise, which is, what's weird about Jewish grandmothers? You have to hit a topic and then riff off of that topic. And that's what I do. The latest book I wrote is called The New Comedy Bible. And it is the book, I'm so fortunate because it is the book that rose to #1 on comedy on Amazon. It's just been bought by Russia, China, Taiwan, Mongolia.
Well, because they need a lot of humor in Mongolia. You know that.
Yeah, it's interesting because their culture is changing, and so does comedy. Because they were what was big there was sketch comedy, and now it's becoming more personal. So there's that. So that's stand-up comedy. It's you pick a topic that is authentic to your life and you riff on it. Okay.
Incidentally, now, I want to pause. Yeah. I want you to pause you on you flew by the idea of the premise, and the premise is so important. I could tell you as an advertising copywriter, we don't use the word premise, but we use the word what's the idea, but we mean it to be the same thing.
That's really good.
It's
premise.
It's what's the premise? Like, what is the idea that you're trying to connect in the listener or the viewers or the watcher's mind? And what is it that you're going, what is it that you're working from? And it speaks to your point of view on life. It speaks, and it is central to everything. So I'm glad you mentioned the word premise.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example of a premise. So there I am the other day. I'm on Clubhouse now, which is super fun for comedy. It's exploding there. And so I was doing a joke about, and I'll do the wrong way to do the joke, and then I'll do the right way to do the joke. Sorry, I'm eating my breakfast, and this is
it's morning for you
in California.
Yeah.
This is what we have in Venice Beach for breakfast: a spinach shake. Go figure. Anyway, I've gone woo woo. So a premise. So there I am in Clubhouse, and so there I was. This is the wrong way to do it. You do it as a story. So I'm on Clubhouse, and I'm in my little triangle, because I was doing a Zoom call too, and I'm doing a joke, and nobody laughs, and then I realize everybody is turned off, and you can't hear their laughs. That's a story, and it's certainly not funny. So what you do is you have to get the idea. And you put an attitude word. Do you know it's hard? It's hard making people laugh on, a Zoom call. So I cut out every story. There I was on the Zoom. It's hard to make people laugh, but I'm used to it. In LA, nobody laughs. They can't. They have too much Botox. You do a joke out here, people are like, "Oh, you're so funny. Look, I'm laughing." Yeah, and that was Cher. Okay, so I'm doing a joke, but nowhere do I have the word I, me, my in the joke. It's really about the topic. And you're so right. It's about the idea, which brings me to a TED Talk. People go, "Oh, I want to do a TED Talk. I have such a great idea. I have such a great story, my story. That'd be so good." Well, I've done a TED Talk, TEDx, TED Talk, whatever. They're not interested in stories. They're interested in what they say, quote unquote, your idea worth sharing. So what is your idea for other people? Not what happened in your life. So there you go with that. So there's that. Then I think we're going to speaking. Speaking is where I learned how to tell stories. But you have a point, and you illuminate that point with a story. You never tell a story because this really happened to me. No one cares about you. So for instance, let's say I'm doing a speech on persistence. Let's just, resilience. Let's say resiliency. That's a big topic in speaking, right? Right? Resiliency. So I'm doing a speech on resiliency, and I say, to be resilient, you have to,
go past 59 agents. Yeah.
Go past 59 agents. Exactly. Matter of fact, let me tell you what happened to me. And then I will tell my story. I'll add a lot of humor to it. And then I'll tell my story about getting on Oprah, all of that. But then I come back to my message, and I might say, what is your number 60? When do you quit? What would have happened if you didn't quit? So it's all about the audience. And I always use words like you, we, us. And I just tell the story, and I only go to me to help them understand about them. Take another sip of my spinach collagen protein shake.
Well, I'm gonna give you a 2 or 3 minute break in a minute, because I want to go to a video that I've got of you that I love. Yeah, no, this is a good one. But you're not finished going through your 5 different. You did stand up, you did TED Talk, you did Speaking, thank you. And I think there's one or two more you had on your fingers.
Storytelling. Which is within a speech. But then again, there's places to do storytelling, like Mo Mondays, job interviews,
yeah,
and the Moth,
yep.
Sit and Spin. There's, I know my nose itches, people. I don't have a cocaine habit. My nose itches.
Anymore.
This is such an intense close-up for someone of my age. So it's like,
yeah,
whoa.
it is. But you can move back a little bit too. So it's
yeah,
okay.
I think I will.
As long as your
microphone
still picks
every single.
Yeah. By the way, I love your hair color. Thank you.
Thank you.
We talked about the storytelling. In all of those things, there are different names for it. The idea, the premise, or what's in it for the listener. But they all speak to the same thing. And it's what I talk about in my workshops and talks is, how do I take this story I made up, I don't know if it's a real word, but universalize it. I have a point of view. How do I make it universal? How do I make it understandable so that somebody could take my experience away to their home and use it? And I think that's what you're getting to.
Yes, it is. And that's why I wrote a book called The Message of You.
Perfect.
The message of you. I believe we all have an essential life message. I find it's very difficult to see. But when you realize your essential life message, then there's another piece of that is how do you build a bridge to other people? And how popular is your message? Hold on a second.
Oh, do I say Gesundheit, bless you, or the devil just went in?
Like people have weird messages, and I work with people. This is really the only coaching I'm doing now. I have online stand-up classes going on, but Kira Sultanovich and Dean Lewis, who are amazing comics, teach them. Because I'm very interested in helping people find their message, because I find that when people tell me about their life, and mostly what they've done for a living, what's so interesting is they all go, well, I don't like my job. I hate my job. My job has nothing to do with my message. But if you dig down deep, I find it does. Like someone was a bankruptcy clerk. That's what they did all do. They help people file for bankruptcy. And I hate my job. I hate my job. I said, well, you know what you are? You help people come out of chaos. Now let's look into your life. What is an eye opener here is tell me how your childhood was. Did you live in chaos? And they go, and it's like, because I don't know, I'm a little psychic this way, just with people's messages. And that's why I wrote that book, The Message of You, because they go, oh my God, my mother was a hoarder. And then I go, okay, now let's look at what you're doing now and what you've learned from it. Because you watching here don't realize that what you know is worth more than you can imagine, because we make a lot of money at corporate events. But you have to have something that you teach the audience. And then only after I find their message, I find their methodology that they're going to teach the audience, only then do I add stories and humor. And only at the end of the speech, and this is a really good lead into what I call your heart story, is this is why I'm so committed to you coming out of chaos. My mother was a hoarder. And then you go into the story, right? And so how many of you are willing every day to take 10 minutes just to put things away. You know what I mean? So then you can go into whatever. I'm making all this stuff up, really, except for somebody I did work with. So, you know, a lot of people think that their message is something they just saw like that on a bumper sticker. Live your dream. If your message has the word dream in it, you'll never work. It's hack. It's just like, find your passion, live your dream. It's like, that's all BS as far as I'm concerned, because it may have worked.
Yeah, it may have worked 10 years ago or 15 years ago, when you might have been the only one saying live your dream, or climb every mountain. I hear yodeling.
Where did I hear that before?
Yeah, right.
Climb every mountain.
Yeah, climb. Exactly. I hear yodeling. But I mean, because I see all the titles that come in for people who want to speak at Mo Mondays. And then I have to make a decision. I said, do I let it go, or do I recommend possibly a different title that will suggest a different? But we're always trying to peel back one more layer. That layer has been peeled for everybody already.
Oh, that's so interesting that you said that. I have the same experience. It's so much fun to talk to you, because you and I probably were working by ourselves, and I get those emails too, and I go like, I could help this person and help them with their pitch to me, so I'm not to, and then I just go, no, I codependent no more.
Well, so here's something, like, take this for what it's worth. I've had 8 years now to work on this intake form where people apply to speak at Mo Mondays. And at first I said, if you were writing a book, what would the book title be? And then that's when I got so many, oh, really, another one? And then I like.
Do you remember any of the bad ones? I'd love to hear those.
No, there are some great ones too. Don't get me wrong. But then I added another question, and the question was, what would the subtitle be? And 9 times, right? I could see the wheels turning there. 9 times out of 10, the subtitle is 1,000 times more interesting than the title, because now they're getting into something a bit more specific. Listen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I wonder what the subtitle is to my books.
Oh. Listen, you hunt around with that.
I would be on your show. Tell me. Subtitle.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
The ultimate guide to writing and performing stand-up comedy.
But it's a different. That's not your story. That's not your story. So it's not an equivalent comparison.
Oh, you're talking about my story.
It's not.
You mean a memoir?
Which you're writing.
Oh God, the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life.
Yeah.
I am, when the Comedy Bible got published, it was called Stand-Up Comedy, the book. It was my first book. At Random House, there was my editor who loved it. And as everybody else said, no, stand-up comedy, nobody wants to really do that. Because this was back in, 1990, when there wasn't, everybody in your gynecologist wasn't a stand-up comic. Anyway.
Not my gynecologist.
Not your gynecologist. Anyway, he went on to be the editor of all my books, except for The Message of You, which was St. Martin's Press. And now that I'm writing my memoir, he's my editor.
Yeah.
And I tell you, it's so hard to find the message of your life because you're living it.
You're living
and it's impossible to do it by yourself.
Yep.
It really is. It's like that old parable where, 2 young fish are swimming in the ocean and an old fish comes up and says, "Hey, how's the water, boy?" And the 2 young fish look at each other and go, "What's water?"
You're right. Yeah.
It's like we're all swimming in it.
Okay, Judy, hold it right there. I want to show this clip. Now, normally I ask my guests to give me a 1-minute clip. You gave me a clip that was a little bit longer, and I always
What
edit
is
it
it
down.
of?
Well, you'll find out. Don't worry. You'll find
Okay.
out. I always edit it down, but I got to tell you, and for everybody watching, I did not want to take 1 second out of this clip, and it leads us directly into, you'll know this clip. It leads us directly into the message of you. I love it. I think it speaks exactly to what I'm all about. I understand a little bit more about what you're about. And you can, and so people watching this, you can watch this just for the sheer impact of the story within the story, or you could start looking at the mastery of how Judy puts in, all the comedy techniques, the storytelling. But you know what? Here it is. Just watch, enjoy.
When I originally wrote the Message of You book, it was supposed to be a book about how to write a speech and what to do with your hands and how to memorize it. But something happened that changed everything. I was asked to speak at the Veterans Hospital, and I was again asked to speak about comedy. Lighten up, woohoo! And I get there, and it's the spinal injury unit. It's young people whose bodies were blown apart. And I'm going, what am I going to say? Hey, woohoo, lighten up. Just make a joke of it. I had nothing. A man comes up to me and says, Judy, that's my son there, Nick. He was injured when a bomb went off in Afghanistan. They say he'll never walk again. They say unless he does his therapy, he will die. He stopped doing his therapy, and Judy, I hope you have an inspiring message. I'm going, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I have again that moment as I stood on stage at Amman, or I stood after Robin said something, I had nothing. And they introduced me, and I came on stage, and again, message filled. From my childhood, I told a story of my sister Marcia, and it just came to me. And I talked about how my sister Marcia, who could not walk or talk, who was incontinent, and when she passed at 58, there were over 200 people at her funeral. Why would 200 people come to a funeral of someone like that? But one by one, they got up and said, Marcia gave my life purpose. Marcia made me feel needed. And I walked up to Nick, and I said, Nick, you must live because you have a purpose. You have a message, and you need to find that message. I went to visit Nick 3 months later. He was doing his therapy, and I said, Nick, what changed? He said, Judy, you made me feel that I had a message. What is that message, Nick? He said, never give up. I realize that's my message, and I want to speak it to other veterans, because there was a doctor in Afghanistan who told me I'd never walk again. I'd never move my hands. And now look at me, Judy. I can almost give that doctor the finger.
Yeah. What a powerful, powerful story.
Yes, people people like that story. Yes, and that was Toastmasters International invited me to speak in Vegas, and so I always pick my stories on what do people in the audience need to learn. I do different stories. If it's like next week, I'm speaking virtually for nurses, and okay, so my sister Marcia, who had cerebral palsy, I guess I forgot to say in that thing. So for nurses, these are nurses who run senior homes, right? Assisted living, that kind of thing. So I'm going to tell a different story, because I'm going like, what do I want them to know? And I want these nurses to know, who have had such a tough time, how difficult it's been for them, but I want them to be appreciated for what they give. So I'm going to tell the story about how my sister Marcia was given away. And for 30 years, she said one word. Home. Home. She was given away at 10 years old and she never got over it. And finally, I found her a home run by amazing nurses. And, you know, where she went out and we put margarita mix in her feeding tube, and she stopped crying to go home because those nurses gave her a home. And never forget how important what you do is, with all the regulations, with all the, you know, T's you have to cross, the I's you've got to dot. You're giving people a home, the most important thing. Thank you. Good night. So I'm going to end with that. Pretty good, right?
Yeah. Especially the part about the margarita.
I know. And then I put some humor in it. I put, you know, I'm going to add to that. But basically, I start with my message. What message do I want people to have? Now I'll go to what story will illuminate that message.
Yeah. So, Judy, the message of you, the message of Judy.
Is that she's dehydrated, obviously.
It must be all that spinach.
You're going, how much is this girl drinking? And I know people, because we went on so fast, I didn't have time to clean up my room. And I know people are going like, yeah, she could use someone to clean up her chaos. I don't think you got a fancy background. I'm like, oh boy.
No,
I've given up on green screens.
When did you first become aware that Judy even had a message?
Oh boy. Well, when in the middle of writing the book, The Message of You, because that book was literally going to be like, you know, what to do with your hands, put them like this, you know.
I started writing that book too, and I abandoned it, by the way.
Yeah, and it didn't have any heart to it. And I had to really, and then what happened was Nick happened, that story when I spoke at the VA. And Nick taught me what it meant to have a message and how powerful it was. So I called up my editor, St. Martin's Press, the publisher, and I said, I've changed the title of the book. I have to change everything about the book because it's really about something deeper. And they said, absolutely not. And so then I wrote up the story about Nick and what happened in the VA. And they went, oh, I get it. This book is motivational. That's what it is. And I go, yeah. And that's when, you know, I changed it. And that's when I looked in my own life, because your message is, and I'm going to say it very clearly for everybody listening, it's based on a story. And here is what that story is. It's your journey from mess to success. And when we speakers usually speak about what we need to learn. So I was a kid who had a very difficult childhood. I grew up with an abusive father. My sister was given away at an early age, and I had a speech impediment really badly. Now I grew up and became a speaker. And I realized when I wrote that story that I found that most speakers really speak on what they need to learn. So,
and that's why we are experts in that one thing, because we never quite master it. We are experts in learning it. That's why and actually, it sounds funny, but I'm very serious about it. It's like we're dealing with the same problem our entire lives. That's why we are so good at it.
Yes.
Even when we're over it, we're still in. Okay,
I don't know if I ever get over it. Like sometimes they ask me to MC, and I can't pronounce people's names. I can't. I just have a disability in that, and And then I try really hard and practice, and I get so nervous. So I don't know if we ever get over it, but we become better at it than most people because we're trying a bit harder than something that people just do naturally.
And earlier you mentioned something else. There's a lot of crossovers with what you are talking about right now. You talked about, you understand their methodology. I think that's also one of my secret powers, is to help somebody elucidate or surface their methodology, because the way you get over that challenge is unique to who you are. You have a unique approach to it, and
that's interesting.
And so your methodology, and by the way, this also applies to my branding work when I help companies figure out their core differentiation in their market. Their methodology is 9 times out of 10, unless it's a whole new category, 9 times out of 10, their differentiation lies in their how. Their why is not why I do what I do. Their why is why I do how I do what I do. Think about that. That's this.
Why I do how what I do.
Yeah, right. All right. And by the way, Judy, did you know I also had a speech impediment when I was younger? Who
what
knew?
was yours?
I had a really bad lisp.
Which is a mean word, lisp, because you can't say it without lisping, like stuttering. Oh, it's such a
talk about a premise.
Mean words.
That's a premise.
Speech impediment. Do you know why name something after the very people who can't say it? They have it. Right. They can't say it. You can say we have a speech. Oh, there, I said it. What's wrong with you? Oh, okay.
I think maybe because they want to turn it into an onomatopoeia or whatever that is. You know.
But it's interesting. You got so vulnerable when you said that.
Oh, like, did I?
When you had lisp, right? You got very vulnerable because it's very real. And I think moments like that, that's why I say your message is in your mess to success. And most people do not want to look back at what their mess is. Done, over, moved on.
And they say things like, oh, people don't want to know about that, or they say fast forward.
Well, do you know what people always say? The biggest lie. Everybody says this big lie. I had a happy childhood.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. You had an unexamined childhood.
Yeah.
Because nobody who's successful has not had a challenge, because it is that challenge that pushed you to be successful. Otherwise, why bother? Anyway, enough of that. I'm kind of like,
all right,
Rabbi Judy.
Yeah. All right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to wrap this up. I thought you were just having a shake for breakfast.
I am.
What are you eating?
Did you see how huge it is?
What are you? Is there a spoon in there?
No, we have. I said I'm in California, so we do no longer use plastic spoons. So we have a straw that we have to wash out every single day.
Don't throw that straw in the ocean.
No, we are not throwing plastic in the ocean. However, meanwhile, they're going, well, yeah, but look at you, Judy. You're drinking out of a plastic container. I've had this for 2 years now.
All right, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're gearing up for the backstage pass. We're actually a little bit late because of the technical difficulties at the start. But we're going to go into a Zoom room with a backstage pass so that people from the Mo Mondays community could actually chat with you one-on-one, quiz you on, but Judy, how do I find the message of me? What do I do right?
Are they going to whine like that?
No, that's just me.
Okay.
We've got the best people in the world. But
okay, well, I got the link. I'm going to it.
Well, you go to it, and while we do that, I'm going to show about a minute clip. You mentioned Oman in that in your story about story about Nick. Well, this is how you got to Oman. And again, another example of mastery of performance and comedic technique, which I always tell people, learn comedy so you could do drama better. because all the timing and everything is the same. That's it. I want to welcome everybody, or not welcome. I want to say thank you for tuning in to MOTV next week, next month. Oh, there you go. My brain, I have more than a speech impediment. Next month, we have another fascinating guest. And we'll see you there. And if you are watching this from within the Mo Mondays community at community.momondays.com, click on the Backstage Pass, and we're going to have a intimate, private chat with Judy Carter. See you soon. Here's the clip. Boom. I love this clip. I laugh every time.
Can I hang up now?
I'm doing a workshop for Toastmasters on, the message of you, which is my book, and how to find that. And afterwards, a man comes up to me and he says, "Judy, I love it. You must come to Oman and I fly you first class." And I'm going, "First class? I am so there. Where is it?" And he goes, "It's in the Middle East." And I'm going, "Oh, fantastic. I love Chicago." And so I get home and I look up Oman, and it is a Muslim country near Saudi Arabia, and it's the Middle East, the real Middle East. And I'm going, I can't go there, It's far, I'm busy, I'm Jewish. But, I'm first class. And my friends are going, you can't go there. You can't, if you do, you can't tell anyone you're Jewish. You really have to Jew down. I go, "Really? How do I do that?" And they go, "By not going like that." And I actually practice, Jewing down. I find that when you tighten your sphincter, you don't sound so Jewish. Like, "Hello, how are you?" Seems like tight right now. I'm going,